Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Dina. Today we will continue inshallah the third part of Yusuf alayhi salam's story. Are you ready for the story? Okay, let's go hear it and enjoy it. Let's begin our story today by saying, may the peace and blessings be upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. In the last episode, we saw how Yusuf alayhi salam was put in prison. The man in prison knew that Yusuf alayhi salam was a noble, kind young man with great knowledge and a merciful heart, and they loved and respected him so much. In the same time, two young men were put in prison with Yusuf alayhi salam. The two men were amazed by his good manners and piety. One night, the young man had a dream. The first one, who was the king's cupbearer, said, "Oh Yusuf, I dreamt I was squeezing wine." The other one, who was the king's cook, said, "As for me, I dreamt that I was carrying some bread on my head from which the birds were eating." And they both told him, "Tell us the interpretation of our dreams. You seem to be a good man." And despite being in prison, Yusuf alayhi salam tried to invite people to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he told them, "The knowledge I have is from what my Lord has told me. I follow the faith of my fathers, Ibrahim, Ishaq, and Yaqub, and we do not attribute any partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala." Then he told them, "O my two beloved companions in prison." He turned with the king's bearer and said, "You will serve wine to your master, and you will be one of his associates." Then he turned toward the king's cook and said, "As for you, you will be crucified, and the birds will eat from your head. The matter about which you asked has been decided." Then he told the one he knew would survive, "Please remember my name in the presence of the king." Yusuf alayhi salam wanted his case to be presented in front of the king as he may set him free. What Yusuf alayhi salam said soon happened. The king's cook was crucified, and the cupbearer returned to the palace. But as soon as he returned to service, the shaitan made him forget about the Prophet, and because of that, Yusuf alayhi salam remained in prison for several years. One day, the king was sleeping and he saw a strange dream. In this dream, he saw 7 fat, healthy cows eaten by 7 skinny, lazy cows. Then he saw 7 green ears of corn and 7 other dry ones. The king was so worried about this dream, so the next day he called his priests and ministers to ask them about the dream. They replied, "Those are just confused dreams, and we know nothing about the interpretation of such dreams." The news of the king's dream reached the cupbearer, so he remembered what happened in prison when Yusuf alayhi salam interpreted his dream. He remembered Yusuf alayhi salam, who asked him to mention his name in front of the king. So he ran to the king and he told him,
"Oh, my king, I know someone who can interpret your dream. I was locked up with him. He is a good man and he asked me to tell you about his innocence, but I totally forgot. All the things he told me about really happened. Can I go to prison and ask him about your dream?"
The king gave permission to the cupbearer to go and see Yusuf alayhi salam in prison. The cupbearer went to Yusuf alayhi salam in prison and he called him by a beautiful name, Yusuf ayyuha Siddiq, Joseph, the truthful one. Then he told him,
"Oh, Joseph, the truthful one, Please interpret for us the dream of 7 fat cows eaten by 7 skinny ones, and also the presence of 7 green ears of corn and 7 other dry ones, so I can return to the people and let them know what it means.
Yusuf alayhi salam replied saying, there will be 7 successive years of good crop and rich harvests in the kingdom. You should save as much as you can in these 7 years, as after that there will be 7 years of drought. So you will have to use whatever you have saved. Food will be extremely scarce in whole Egypt, and after the 7 years, you will return back to normal and you will have abundant rain. The cupbearer returned back to the king and told him the interpretation of his dream as said by Yusuf alayhi salam. The king was fascinated and he told a messenger to go to Yusuf alayhi salam in prison and set him free. When the messenger went to prison, Yusuf alayhi salam refused to leave with him, and he said, I will not leave the prison until my innocence is proved. Go back to your king and ask him about the case of the women who cut their hands. Surely God has full knowledge of their cunning. The king asked his men to bring Zuleika and the wives of the ministers to stand before him. When Zuleika and the other women stood in front of the king, he asked them, what is the story of Yusuf? And what happened when you tried to seduce him? Did he try to molest Zuleika, the chief minister's wife? And they replied, Allah forbid! We know nothing indecent about him. He is innocent. Then Zuleika said,
Now, the truth has been made clear. I am the one who seduced him, and he is truthful, but nothing evil ever happened between us.
the king was amazed to hear what they have said, and he ordered his men instantly, saying, get him now. I want him. I will employ him exclusively in my service. I want him to be my advisor. When the prophet came to the palace, the king was stunned by the handsome young man. He spoke to the prophet for a while to test his knowledge. The king was impressed by Yusuf alayhi salam's answers and his intelligence, and he told him, now I fully trust you. What do you want? Yusuf alayhi salam said, please assign me as your treasurer. I gave you the solution for the coming famine and I know how to put it into place. The king agreed and Yusuf alayhi salam nearly ruled everything. And he told the king that the famine would not only affect Egypt but the other countries as well. So the king gave Yusuf alayhi salam also the responsibility of guarding the nation's harvest. Yusuf alayhi salam became one of the senior officials in and he had full control of cultivation, harvesting, and storing all the crops. He did his duties faithfully and he saved the grains for the harsh years ahead. Yusuf alayhi salam, after being in prison, now has full authority to do whatever he wants. And the 7 good years passed in a blink of an eye. Do you want to know what will happen with Yusuf alayhi salam and whether he will see his father again or not? Wait for me next episode, inshallah, and we will know together what will happen. Please, my friends, do not forget to like and share the story as it might be of benefit, inshallah. See you next episode, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.